All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody's time this evening to find out about the Charlotte Street Improvement Projects. My name is Troy White. I am the Public Works Director for the town of Johnstown. With me on the call tonight to help answer any questions that you might have at the end of the presentation is Mark Stanley, who's the town's project manager. He'll be the one that you'll primarily see on the site. Brian Campbell, along with other members from Tate, who is the engineering design firm that did all the engineering and the design for the project, is also on the line in case there's any technical questions that you might have. We also have Jesus Sanchez, who is the project manager for the contractor, which is Colorado Paving. And then we have Stephen Geist, who is an arborist with Save a Tree. The town has hired to help us with this project to oversee the construction as it relates to the trees. The goal of this project is to obviously save as many trees as we can. And he's going to make the call as to whether or not the construction might have gotten too close or damaged too much of the roots and the tree would need to come down. We're hoping that we don't have to take very many down. There's one slated to come down, but there may be upwards to 3 or 4 more that may need to come down just as a result of construction. And I'll go over a little bit more about that as we move through this presentation. Go ahead, Jamie. So just a little bit of the background. We started this really in May of 2021, where we did a lot of outreach on this. We had several different design alternatives that we took to the residents, and we ended up settling on what you will see here towards the end of the presentation. And then in June of 2022, the town did select a contractor. We also received a state grant for this of $750,000. So out of the $4.5 million, 750,000 of it is a grant. And it's kind of why we're getting started a little late, is we had to wait for that grant paperwork to go through before we could start the project, or else we wouldn't get any of the reimbursement of the $750,000, and that didn't come until the end of August. So that's kind of the reason for the late start here. We felt it was worth having the $750,000 to assist with this project versus getting started a little bit earlier. In the month of July and even a little bit of August, the town, me primarily with Mark, met with the property owners that directly abut the project. So the property owners on Charlotte Street, we met with them one-on-one. We sent out postcards letting them know to call into the town and make an appointment. And we met on site on their property to go over what was taking place directly in front of their house and their yard. So if there's anybody on here that is on Charlotte Street that did not get a meeting, that wants a meeting, you'll have mine and Mark's contact information on the last slide of the presentation here. We'd still be happy to meet with you out on site and talk to you directly on how your property will be impacted. I will say there's going to be very minimal impacts with the Charlotte Street project as far as the impacts to the properties. There's some that have a little bit of impact, some that don't have hardly any at all, but we really tried to minimize those as much as possible. So we are looking at getting this started, like Jamie had said at the kickoff here, towards the end of October to beginning of November. The contractor has ordered the sewer and the water pipe needed for the project. So we're just waiting for that to arrive. And once that arrives, the project's going to get started. So we had hoped to be out there mid-October at the latest, but with the supply chain issues and the short supply of certain materials, that's what's pushed us back to the very end of October, the beginning of November. And then the target date for completion of this project is going to be the summer of 2023. And I'll talk a little bit more about the schedule as we go through and discuss the different phases here in a minute. But I did want to thank all the residents who did call in and do the meetings and actually came out to the public meetings. We received a lot of good feedback. We changed a lot of the plans due to the feedback that we got back from the residents in the area. And I think we have a pretty good project moving forward here. Go ahead, Jamie. So the project really is Charlotte Street, and it's going to start by J Avenue. We actually get into the J Avenue intersection, and then it goes all the way down to Columbine. We're not really getting too much into Columbine except for to attach some storm drain down there. But that's the project length is from J to Columbine over there by Parish Park. And the primary purpose of this project is really kind of threefold. Number one, we've got really old water and sewer lines. We've got old clay water lines, old iron pipes out there that we want to get out. We want to upgrade those to the new water and sewer lines. And they're also going to increase the water line size, should help with the pressure to the homes, as well as increase the sewer line size. So that will help with any sewer issues that you may be having as far as the town side. Now, we are going to provide an opportunity for residents to, if they're interested in replacing the water and sewer lines on their property. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. We're also going to be putting new asphalt and new sidewalks along Charlotte Street. And then finally, new storm drain system. Right now, we don't have any storm water. If you guys are aware, we get a lot of water in this area. We have some homes that are flooding. And what we're doing is we're capturing a lot of this storm water. It won't capture all of it, but it'll capture a lot of it. So it should significantly mitigate a lot of the flooding that we have in the area. Next slide, Jamie. So we got three phases to the project mainly. And phase one is the first thing that's going to be happening, like we said, starting late October, early November, where they're going to get out there and start replacing the water and sewer lines. Those are really kind of the deepest things that we need to replace. So we always start out with that first. So the contractor will be out there and replacing the water and sewer lines down Charlotte. That's through primarily most of the area. There's some areas, as you get closer to Columbine, that's not getting, sewer, because the sewer goes to a different direction than out to Charlotte. But we are replacing primarily the water and sewer through most of the project. And then stormwater does go all the way from the stormwater drain system we're putting in does go from Columbine. It doesn't go all the way to J. I think it goes somewhere over by Fremont, or maybe even a little shorter than that. But that's for the stormwater system. You will have occasional water and sewer disruptions as they're connecting the new sewer service lines and water service lines to the property line. So you will have some disruption in that, but we will give you a 48-hour notice before there's any disruption to the water and sewer. And usually that's for a very short period of time. It's just while they're connecting the new water line to your existing water line or sewer service line on your property. So it's not a big outage, but you'll still receive a 48-hour notice for that. Also, while this is going on, there will be some street lane closures that we'll have to deal with, just because when they're doing the sewer line, it's so deep in that street that we'll have to shut off areas where the contractor is working. So we may have some intersections closed while others are open, but we'll always make sure that you have a way around and you have a way to get to your home, and that the school has a way to get the students to the schools. So we're going to be very cognizant of that. Also, I know a lot of people park on the street right now. There will be periods of time where you won't be able to park on the street. We'll give you as much notice as possible ahead of time, but just be watching out for those signs that will say no parking, and your cooperation in that is definitely appreciated, as that will help the contractor speed through this project and get it done sooner. We don't want to have to try to hunt down people that have parked in an area we have no parking. That just slows us down. So if you can be cognizant and keep a lookout for those signs, that will certainly help us out. If you are a property owner that wants to replace your water or your sewer line on your property, you will have to get your own contractor to do that. But what's good about this is, if you get a contractor on board, and I'd advise, if you want to do that, go ahead and get that contractor on board. Reach out to Mark Stanley, send him your name, your address, and a contact phone number, because what's going to happen is, as our contractor is replacing the service line to your property, your contractor needs to be ready and already have the new line in place and ready to connect to our new line. We're not going to hold up our contractor for this, but if you have a new service line that's on your property and we can work with you on where that needs to be and where the connection point is, then we'll make the connection to your new water line sewer service or your new sewer line service. So again, if you're interested in getting your own contractor to replace the water or sewer on your property, contact Mark so that we can make sure that the timing between our contractor and your contractor matches and works out, so that we're keeping the project moving forward. If you have any questions on that, please let us know at the end of the presentation here. Go ahead, Jamie. So the next phase of the project is phase 2. Once the water and the sewer and the storm drain is in, then we'll move on to the roadway reconstruction. I do also have to mention, Excel gas line is going to be replacing the main gas line down Charlotte as well. So they are going to be probably working concurrently when our contractor is out there doing the water and sewer and the storm drain. Excel's contractor is going to be out there doing the gas line. And again, this will be well coordinated between their contractor and our contractor to make sure that we're making sure everybody has a way to get around. But that will be the first phase, is the water, the sewer, the storm drain, and the new gas line that needs to go in on Charlotte Street. Once that's completed, we'll go into phase 2, which is the roadway reconstruction. That'll begin as soon as the water and sewer and storm and gas is done. The construction times on this is Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm going to try not to be out there every Saturday. As a matter of fact, the contractor has to ask for specific permission to work on a Saturday. We know that you guys are going to need a break from this. So we won't be out there every Saturday, giving you, so that you guys can get that break that you need from the construction and the machinery and all of that. So it says Monday through Saturday, but it's not going to be every Saturday. So just keep that in mind. They do need to be wrapped up by 5 p.m., but I can tell you, if they get started at 7, they'll probably most days be done well before 5 p.m. There may be occasional late work, 7 p.m. if they've got other subcontractors scheduled that are coming in and they need to finish up the work they're working on. They may have to work late, but we told them that under no circumstances will we be working past 7 p.m. Crews will primarily be working from east to west, working from over by Columbine and then working down towards J Avenue, especially with the water and the sewer and the storm drain system. Some of the impacts to look out for, again, it's the same, where there will be some full closures in areas. There will be some no parking areas, especially when we get into paving and subgrade work. That's probably where you'll find the most impacts to no parking on the side of the road. When the paver comes out or when they're doing subgrade work, they usually do large sections at a time. So this would be probably the most impactful part of the project is when we're actually doing the subgrade work and doing the paving of the road. Because there will be times where you won't be able to get into your driveway, specifically when they're doing the paving until the pavement has set up and it's okay to drive on. But again, we'll be working really closely with the residents. Plenty of notice when you're not going to be able to park in your driveway so that you'll know if you need to find alternative parking. We're going to try to limit it as much as possible, but just by the nature of the work, there's no way to avoid some of those impacts. Next slide, Jamie. And then phase 3, which will be towards the end of the project. The contractor has, according to the contract, they do have until September of next year to complete the project. However, we have incentivized them to try to get this done by June 1st. We'd really like it if it was substantially complete by June 1st so that we could still have the parade down Charlotte Street. Don't know if that's going to be possible. The contractor's certainly going to try to make that happen. They're incentivized to try to make that happen. So we'll see. But just keep in mind, they do have until September of next year to complete the project. And again, it's the same with the aesthetics. It's the same construction times that they're looking for. And really the aesthetics is, now that the road's done and the sidewalks are in and the curb and gutters in, they're going to be going back. And this is when they're hitting all of the landscaping and redoing the landscaping, doing some final striping of the roadway and just doing some of that complete work. So won't be as impactful as the road work, certainly much less impactful than the road work, but they'll still be out there, still have intermittent areas where they need to close down certain sections of the street to have their trucks come in for dropping off gravel or rock mulch or whatever it is. So there'll be areas where there's no parking so that the workers can do their work in certain areas. And again, occasional closures for the pedestrian paths, which is the sidewalk. So next slide, Jamie. So basically the road will look one of 3 ways. It's going to look very much the way it looks today, except for it's going to be newer. There's going to be some areas of the road that will be a little higher than it is now, and some areas of the road where it's going to be a little lower than it is now. And that first kind of picture you see up there on the top left corner of your screen there is what we typically like to do with our roadways. That's where it's higher in the middle, and then it goes down towards the curbs on each side of the road, so that the water runs off in 2 directions, not one direction. It goes into our storm system that we've put in previously, and then works its way down the underground storm system. On the right there, you'll see that there's some areas of the road where that doesn't work out for drainage purposes, so you won't have the road that is higher in the middle and lower on the sides. It's going to be higher on one side and then lower on another side. So it just depends on where it's at and what the particulars of the geographic area of the roadway is. You might see a road that looks like that on the right. And then again, the one on the bottom there is pretty much kind of the same as is the top one as you're going from area to area. So it's going to vary, but it's going to be a brand new road when it's done. It's going to be very smooth and very beautiful, and it's really going to really make it look a lot better than it does now. And again, we're trying to keep as many of those trees as we can. So that's what the end result will be. And then Jamie, next slide. Just some things that you should know. Again, any utility disruptions, you'll have 48-hour prior notice. A lot of times we'll knock on the doors, Nobody's there. We're going to put door hangers on. So during the course of construction, especially during the beginning of this, when we're doing the water and sewer, if you've been gone all day, you might want to come home. Make sure that you look at your front door if you use your garage for entrance into your house, just to make sure that we haven't posted a notice on your front door that the water's going to be shut off. We would hate for anybody to miss any of those notices. Again, road closures and driveway impacts, you'll be notified again by the on-site team when you're going to have some driveway impacts and you might not be able to get into your driveway. Just so you know, we do always work with first responders, that's fire, medical, police. All of our first responders will always have access to your house at all times. So none of that will be delayed. When we have sections of the road closed, they're aware of it so that when they're responding, they don't go to an area that's closed and have to do a U-turn and go a different way. They know this ahead of time, and they're able to respond just as fast as if we weren't out there. So we stay in good contact with them. We stay in good contact with the school district to let them know when they have to maybe reroute how the kids are getting to the school or how the bus is going to the school. And then garbage and recycling, our contractor will be responsible for making sure that your trash and recycling gets picked up. You're still responsible for bringing it out to the road, at least as close to the road as you can. If it's a media area they're working or there's trenching or whatever, still bring your carts out to nearest to the road as you can. And then they're going to be working with the provider Waste Connections to make sure that when they move it to one side of the road or the other so that it gets picked up. They'll keep track of which cart's yours so that your cart goes back to your house. But make sure you bring it out. We do have some people that say my trash got mixed, and the reality of it was that they didn't put the trash out, but they want to blame it on construction that the trash got mixed. I just want to let you know the trash trucks do have cameras on them, and they know when they're going by places when receptacles are put out and when they're not put out. So if you want the trash to get picked up, you got to help us out. You got to get it out closest to the road as possible. Again, the goal is to preserve as many trees in Charlotte. We're not taking them down if you want them down. We had some requests of people asking us, can you just take the tree down? The answer to that is no. The only way the town's going to take a tree down is if the tree is deemed diseased by the arborist or disease or deemed too damaged, so that the viability of the tree is jeopardized due to the construction. I'm saying that probably is more than likely to happen with 3 or 4 of the trees out there, but we're going to try to save the majority of them will still be in place for sure. But there will be some minimal that will be impacted. And again, these trees, we don't want to take down trees if we don't have to, because they're very expensive to take down. We had to take down a couple of trees on the other project that was in this area that you guys are well aware of. And those trees cost anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000, depending on the size of them, to take down. So again, if there's not a legitimate reason during this construction process to take a tree down, we are not going to be taking it down. And we are prioritizing continued access to the community and to the high school and to the other public areas, such as the downtown area. So you guys will make sure that you always have a way to get out and get where you're going in whatever direction you're going in. So next slide. So I want to make sure there's 2 contact names here that you want to write down. You want to make sure that you get this contact information for myself and for Mark, who's the town's project manager. There's our email addresses right there. If you have any questions as we're going through this construction, or if you have any concerns, or if you see anything, please call us. A lot of times the residents are our eyes and ears out there. If something doesn't look right, let us know. We'll come out and check it out. We'll always follow back up with you on your concern to let you know, hey, no, this is either legitimate and it's not going to look this way forever, or hey, this is a good catch. This needs to be corrected. Thanks for reaching out to us. So we do respond, we do check it out, and we do circle back with you to let you know what the outcome of that is. So, so please don't hesitate to reach out to either me or Mark. If you see something, or even if you just have a question, reach out to us. Again, the project hopefully will be over by June, but they do have until September of 2023. So we will have a project page where you can follow the updates, follow how we're going. If we're ahead of schedule, if we're falling a little behind schedule due to whatever reason, supply chain issues or whatever, we'll keep that up regularly updated on the town's website at that address that you see there. So you can stay up to date on a month-to-month basis with what's going on out there. Next slide, Jamie. All right, that's it, I think. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I have for today. I'm gonna real quickly just ask Mark and Jesus and Brian if there's anything I forgot to mention that is worth mentioning before we open this up to questions. I'll start out with you, Mark. Is there anything that you see that I might have failed to mention?
No, sir. Very complete.
All right, thank you. Jesus, anything on your end that you want to mention or I might have forgot to mention?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. I just want to touch base again and remind all the residents that you will be getting the proper notice whenever you're going to be impacted, whether it's access or, like Mark said, a water shutdown, sewer, any sort of connections. And as the project's going, for any of the residents, if you have any questions, I'll be on there daily as project manager. Feel free to reach out to me whenever you have any questions, doubts, concerns. Pretty easy to identify. I'll be the only one in a red pickup with our logo on the side. So just keep an eye out for that red truck, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions or have any conversations with any of the residents.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jesus. That reminds me, I do want to say that if you do have questions or you do have concerns, I would ask that you either ask me, Mark, or Jesus. If you ask subcontractors that are out there working or crew people that are out there working, a lot of times you're going to get the wrong answer. As a matter of fact, most of the time you'll get the wrong answer. If you're not asking them about the specific thing that they're doing and you're asking them about some other part of their project, they're going to try to answer it for you and they're probably not going to be right. So if you do have a question, please limit that to either myself, Mark, or Jesus while you're out there. Brian, I'm going to go to you next. If there's anything that I failed to mention.
No, Troy, I thought you covered everything. I just wanted to reiterate that it was our goal to minimize impacts to people's properties, as you mentioned. Although some properties will have some impacts to them, hopefully minor. But if there's any questions on the type of impacts that, for the folks we haven't talked to yet, just reach out and we can walk you through that stuff. So.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. I know some of the projects some of the properties on the other project had some pretty significant impacts. That was one of the concerns we heard. This project is not going to have those type of impacts to the property along Charlotte. So it is very minimal, and Tate, the design engineer, did a really good job of making sure of that on this particular project. So I don't know, is Stephen, are you on here? Stephen Geist with Save a Tree, are you on here? All right, evidently Steve wasn't able to.
I was having trouble unmuting.
Steve, I didn't want to not give you an opportunity if you wanted to say anything about the trees or anything like that, if I failed to mention something on that.
No, I think you covered that. I mean, we have done. I mean, I did do an assessment of all those trees already, so we have an initial assessment on them going into the project.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, there was one tree, and we've already talked to the property owner. There was one tree that was diseased at the time that you identified as removal. Tree has since died, so it's very obvious which one it is now. It might not.
Oh, well, that's not good, but
yeah, exactly. It might not have been obvious when you first did it, but you were dead on. It's not surviving, so it's going to be removed. But yeah, there was only one tree that was identified as definitely coming down, and And that one will be removed, and we've already talked to the property owner about that, and they're kind of happy about it because they see that it's dead out there. All right, thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. I appreciate the team here. We got a pretty excellent team moving forward. I feel really good about this project. Great contractor on board, great design team, and an excellent project manager with Mark on this. So with this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. Jamie's going to handle the letting us know what the questions are, and then we'll figure out who's best to answer that. So Jamie, I'll turn it back over to you for the question session of this.
Sure. Well, we just have a couple, but I do want to remind folks that are in the meeting that if you do have a question, please use the hand raise feature on Zoom, and I will unmute you so that you can ask the question and engage. Alternatively, you can ask the question via the chat box that should be hovering somewhere at the bottom of your screen. So feel free to either raise your hand or use that chat feature to ask questions. I'm going to go ahead and let the folks with their hands raised ask the questions first. And then if there's any that haven't been asked, I'll follow up with the ones that have been asked in the chat. So it looks like Linda has a question for us. So I'm going to ask Linda, I'm going to ask you to unmute right now via the technology. So just follow that, and then you should be good to ask your questions. Linda?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I was having a little trouble with that. Is there any provision or plan for fiber optic to be included in this project because DSL is so bad here?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have worked with the internet providers out there, and what they stated to us is that they will use the existing utility lines when they come in there, so they don't need any conduit under the ground, but they will use the existing the telephone poles and everything in that area if they come into that area. I do know the town is working on trying to get town-wide fiber to come in. We're working on working with some different companies to try to make that happen. I don't know where that's at. It's not part of this project,
Right.
but anything that we're doing will not hinder their ability to come in and upgrade that service to the residents in this area.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. So they would use the poles, but they just run fiber from the poles.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be really snappy to, have it underneath the ground, but I guess this will work. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good question.
Right, I'm going to wait a minute. Do we have any additional questions that folks would like to ask in person? Please go ahead and use that hand raise feature. While we're waiting, one of the questions that we did get was related to snow clearance. If it does snow, since this project is over a couple months where it's doing that, clearing the sidewalk, since there's going to be an impact to the sidewalk, what does that obligation look like for residents, and will it be clearly communicated to residents at the time that it's important?
I'm sorry, Jamie, can you repeat that? There was a lot of meat on that. I didn't catch all of it. I'm sorry.
Sure. The question is, since there will likely be snow during the project, what does clearing that snow look like on the sidewalks since there will be construction? And will residents be informed about their expectations related to clearing the snow on their sidewalks if they're kind of demolished or taken apart?
Yeah, that is a great question. So sidewalks will be much later in the program, probably really closer to after the construction is, or after the snow season is over, or certainly probably at a minimum the March, April timeframe. So the homeowners will still be responsible for making sure the snow is cleared from the sidewalks. Now, if for any reason we've impacted that, then obviously you won't have to. If we do get in there earlier than we think we're gonna get in there, and we've got the area tore up, obviously, we don't want you up there working. We'd have that zoned off and you wouldn't have that responsibility, but probably for the majority of this winter snow season, you're gonna have sidewalks and would be still expected to keep that clear. That's a great question, though. Thank you.
So I'm gonna jump in here. Sorry to interrupt, but what we could also do to help out the residents is from the contractor's point, when we give out our notices, say, to let you know that your sidewalks are going to be closed off or we're going to be, tearing those out. That usually obviously happens quite a bit of notice ahead before we do it. What we can do for the ones that are going to be impacted is on your door hanger or whatever flyer we give to you, we can identify the ones that don't need the snow to be removed of. So unless you see on your notice saying, no snow removal or something along those lines required, that can kind of be a flag to let you know you still got to keep up with your snow removal unless we identify it on that notice, if that makes it easier for the residents.
Yeah, that'd be great, Jesus. I appreciate you guys doing that. That's a fantastic idea. Let's go ahead and do that.
Thank you. All right, the next question is going to be from Dallas here. Dallas, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute via the Zoom, so you should get that request here in a second, and then you'll be able to speak. Oh, it looks like it keeps muting itself. Alice just direct messaged me the question while we figure this technology out. And that question is, are we going to get new street lights as well?
Mark, I can't recall on the plans if there's new streetlights on this. Brian, do you recall that?
Yeah. From what I recall is that we were replacing the streetlights as well.
Okay. All right.
Because there's several that have to be relocated along the corridor. We'd have to look at the details though, as far as, because I don't think we matched what was at Parish Park. I think it was just going to go back to the standard pole type streetlight, from what I recall.
And those are primarily at the intersections, correct?
Yeah, it's primarily, they are kind of scattered throughout. And so, we had, like I said, we do have to relocate some of those. And so we're going to put them in, we put them in the areas that we felt were they best fit, essentially.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so we are getting new streetlights out there then. Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next question comes from Betty. And I did make it so that folks could unmute themselves if they need to. So you should be able to do that. But Betty asks, are there plans to stripe the center line? Currently, a lot of people are driving down the middle of the street.
Brian, I don't recall the striping plan. I didn't think there was striping out there, but I may be incorrect on that.
There isn't right now. If Rob could chime in, he worked on that piece. He can.
I think that's some of the feedback we heard back from the residents, right? Is they wanted it to look as.
Right. From what I recall, we did, but Rob can answer that for sure. Rob?
Yeah, I'm pulling up. I got the plans up right now, so I'm just scrolling to that sheet. But I'm pretty sure we are calling for a dash center line.
Right.
Road
Yeah.
now.
I'm looking at the plans right now, and there is a dash center line going down.
Okay, yeah, I was pretty sure we definitely added that, but
Yeah.
All right, so that'll help then. Okay, great.
Yeah, we added also, just in addition to that, Troy, we did add striping for stop signs, and so you're gonna see a little bit more striping, quite a bit more actually than what you see out there today. So hopefully that helps with some of the traffic calming.
Yeah, we have it for crosswalks too as well, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah, at the controlled intersections. Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's what I thought, yep. So yeah, right now there's nothing, so you'll end up with the dash center line and then the crosswalks and stop bars and stuff like that, so. All right, great question.
All right, and I'm looking over here in the chat as well as in our participants list, and it doesn't look like we have any additional questions this evening. Of course, folks have Troy and Mark's information on the slide in front of them still. Please take those emails down, they're really important. Another thing I want to remind folks is that we are recording this presentation and it will be hosted on that johnstown.colorado.gov /CIProjects page. So if you'd like to come back and revisit this presentation, or you are talking to folks in the neighborhood who happen to miss it but would like to revisit it, they're more than welcome to go ahead and watch it at that URL. We'll probably have it posted by the end of the week for everyone. But otherwise, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I will leave it up to you, Troy.
All right, well, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for attending today and learning more about the Charlotte Street project. It's something we're certainly looking forward to. It's going to be a great improvement, not only for water and sewer service, but also for stormwater and for making the road improvements. One thing I failed to mention, which is really important, is on Greeley and Fremont, where we have the roads that you have the big hump in the road and some vehicles can't get over that. We're smoothing that out and we're getting rid of those big grade differences on those roadways. So it's gonna, at the end of the project, it's gonna be outstanding. It's gonna look good and it's gonna be brand new, and it's gonna work a lot better for drivability, for aesthetics, and for storm drain system and the conveyance of the water. So it's something we're certainly looking forward to and appreciate everybody's patience as we're going through this, and we'll see you on the other side of it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance.